And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Esports World Cup 2024 South Korean Open Qualifier. Welcome to our very first qualifying match of the night. We just wrapped up with SHIN versus Rogue. SHIN came out on top just barely in that best of 3, and now we're entering a best of 5. A best of 5 qualifying match. And if you're in the chat, Predictions are now open. Place your bets on who you believe will be the first player to qualify for the closed qualifier. Best of luck. Predictions open. Just posting in the chat, and here we go. We're jumping on in and sporting in the right-hand corner of Crimson Court. We have our South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing Gaiman Gladiators. It is SHIN. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the South Korean Protoss player, the Blue Protoss, representing Twisted Minds. It is Stats. Here we go. Our PVC is here, and we're already kicking things off with a proxy hatch. Let's go. The aggression is on, and we scout. No shot. We scout immediately. Stats. He does come across the proxy, finds the hatchery, will already focus it down. Behind this, we can get a second gateway, we can get a forge, we can get cannons, we can prioritize our zealots. Just a very fast scout here, very fast reaction out of Stats. This is not ideal for SHIN, as SHIN's expanding. Okay, so SHIN, he responds with an expansion, so he's going to be canceling this hatchery, I imagine, and getting into, I presume, a gasless opener with a spawning pool thereafter. As the third probe has arrived, again, a less than ideal start here for SHIN, and I imagine it does mean that he has to kind of pivot away from this. And he's at least forcing some inefficient mining here out of Stats. Stats behind this egg goes out for a zealot. Forge is now on the way. There's that spawning pool follow-up. And again, we should be canceling this hatchery. Now, Stats has no idea that behind this we're not being hyper-aggressive. We are just going for a more standard follow-up here, trying to recover, trying to get into a standard game. We're droning, essentially. We are droning up. There's the cancel on the hatchery, and the aggression has subsided. The aggression has subsided. Now, at least it did force inefficient mining, did force lost mining time, and a delay on the expansion. Damage was done, but we were hoping for more, I imagine. We were hoping for a little bit more. Drone Scout will confirm that there is a Nexus on the way, that there's no second gateway, that there's no forge, and SHIN is unable to get the gas steal. He was hoping for it, but alas, it won't quite be there. SHIN will back up, and across the map, Stats is going to retreat as well with that Zealot. Doesn't want to get caught out, doesn't want to get surrounded, and we're just going to be settling in. We're settling into our game. We are going to be calming things down here, and we have our take of choice. Stats, okay, going for an aggressive follow-up, which I appreciate. Again, we're just popping up from both ends here in game number 1, initially with a proxy hatch, and now with a Twilight Council. This should be for Glaives, it could be for a Dark Shrine. We'll keep an eye on the gases. Actually, we have not pulled out a gas. Okay, so this could be 3-gate Glaive Adept. As there is no Robo, there's no Prism potential. Otherwise, this could be for a Dark Shrine. We have not pulled out a gas, so I'm curious where this takes us. And Robo is now on the way. I'm feeling a Dark Shrine, but we'll see. We shall see. Behind this, SHIN is just droning up. Third base is now on the way. Third base has been delayed. We're going for Glaives, and we have pulled out a gas. That's what we were waiting for. We have pulled out a gas here. Just 2 and 2. In the main base. Gateways are on the way, and we're working towards Glaive Adepts. The build itself was a little bit wonky just because of the early game. It was a little bit wonky of a build, but we're getting there. Meanwhile, SHIN coming with the Overlord Scout, and SHIN will confirm everything in the main. Does get eyes on the researching Twilight Council. Does confirm Glaives. So SHIN sees all, he knows all. Back at home, early Roach Warren, sub 4 minutes. With this, SHIN will be ready for Adepts for the aggression. Now, SHIN will have the tools to defend, but it still comes down to the control. It comes down to the movement of Stats. Likewise, it also comes down to the movement and positioning of SHIN. Well, SHIN is supply blocked. For a moment, though. Additional Overlords are on the way. We can see Stats are mining through these minerals, looking to expand towards the northern side. Looking to expand linearly. As Glaives is about to finish up, and the Prism does move out. Let's go. Stats is pushing. Back at home, SHIN cutting workers at 36. Cutting workers really early on, embracing Lings and Roaches. He's looking to completely shut this down. And we'll see if he can. There's the warp in of Adepts. Stats reinforcing. Quite committed with this. Remember, Stats is not all in. He's looking to expand behind this, taking the third base. Because of this map, because of Crimson Core, this third base is very safe, very sound. SHIN doesn't have access to this Nexus until he knocks down rocks or mine through minerals of his own. And Stats, he is threatening Shades. Immortal production has begun, charge as well. And Stats, he won't commit to these Shades here. Meanwhile, SHIN has not droned. He's not droned in quite some time. Shading in between the bases, just keeping SHIN busy. And SHIN is going for the all-in. SHIN is still making pure Ling. Oh my god. Just mass Lings here out of SHIN, and we're moving out across the map. The Shades, they will force back the Lings, at least initially. Oh, the oh my god, the Vials! The Vials, they take down the Prism. Oh my god, SHIN, calm down. The Prism does fall, shield batteries are on the way, and we're looking to knock down that front door. We're gonna break into the natural. Now the Adepts did make it, they did survive, and they're here to support that Immortal. But the Cybercore's under fire. The Immortal as well. Here come the Lings. So far, Soul Force. Oh my god, the Vials once again. The Vials, they bring down the Prism and the Immortal. Ay, ay, ay. How? Pickoffs that should not be occurring. There's one Immortal left. Behind this, working towards the backup Cybercore, working towards charge. No second Immortal in production, and we can knock down the front door. We knock down the rocks at least. Pushing in towards the third. And where is SHIN headed? Yeah, for that Nexus. That's going to be a kill on the base. There's no saving it. The Vials, ooh, they do connect. We collapse on the army. No shield, no overcharge. We get a full surround. And Stats, he gets completely caught off guard. The bars were insane. The surround as well. And there's just nothing left. There's nothing here. We have shield batteries, but they're not supporting anything. We're out of range. The shield batteries, the overcharge, it does nothing. GG gets called, and SHIN takes game number 1. GG. Oh my, calm down. GG, well played. SHIN, he was forced to respond, of course, forced to react to the initial Glaive Adepts, and SHIN just committed to the all-in. He stopped making workers, made nothing but Lings, nothing but Ravagers, and the Biles were insane. He shut down and he sniped the Prism and the Immortal. And from there, like, Stats, he lost the backbone of his army, I should say. He lost the backbone of his army. He lost a lot of micro potential as well without that War Prism. And things went from bad to worse. SHIN completely shut Stats down and takes the lead. Takes a lead in the series. But alas, that was merely a lead. We're now getting into game number 2, and this could still go either way. It's a best of 5. As a reminder, Stats can always bring it back. Can always bring it back here. Really, we just needed that first game to shake the rust off. It's all good. Just shaking it off, pappy. Getting ready for game number 2. We're going to be loading into Oceanborn. Let's go. Let us go. So we're just making sure we have all the casters in here. Again, a lot of coverage for these qualifiers. A lot of coverage here for these games. So we just have to make sure we got all the casters. Shout out to Enki and Hermoso. Also casting in Spanish. It's casting in Spanish. Likewise, we have plenty of English casters as well. We have CranKy casting in Korean. It looks like they're just resolving some technical issues. Just some tech issues here between our players. then we'll jump in. Shout out to Crank. Crank is basically the translator. He's like relaying what Stats is saying to his opponent. But it looks like, yeah, it looks like Stats had the console bug. For those that are unaware, there is a bug that does occur sometimes for players where it's a console bug, which means that basically their console switches to the Twitch console, I believe, which is like, yeah, which can be quite distracting. And basically, he's being notified that if that happens again, we can just remake the game. We just remake the lobby and remake the game. It's all good. Just making sure that doesn't happen again. All good. Until then, we're settling in. Okay, good. So yeah, we're just remaking the lobby here. Apparently, so I wasn't quite aware of this, but apparently, to avoid the bug, the player that's experiencing these kind of issues, if they make the lobby themselves, then should be resolving the issues. So we're just gonna be remaking the lobby, and Stats is gonna be the lobby host. And then we can get into this. All good. All good. Now, meanwhile, if you want to tune in the other qualifying match, I believe Bunny and Creator are mid-series. They're duking it out over on Wardy's channel. I'm sure covered by many other English casters as well. I think it's Wardy and Rotterdam, if I'm not mistaken. I think Roddy and Rotterdam have the PVT, and all the other English casters have the PVZ. That's how we have split up. Go. Meanwhile, I hope everyone in the chat is enjoying themselves. Hope you're all doing well. I love Shin in his crazy style. He's great. He's great. Shin is a very chaotic player, and we love him for it. Stylistically different to Dark, though. Like, Dark is also very aggressive and very chaotic, but Dark has like a certain style to himself as well. When it comes to his builds of choices, Shin is slightly different. Slightly different. But here we go. We're getting into our next game. Looks like our issues have been resolved, and we're jumping into Oceanborn as game number 2. Again, I apologize for the downtime or for the break that we had here, but just making sure that everything is working as intended for our players, making sure they have the kind of best situation possible. And here we go. We're getting into that second game. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have our South Korean Protoss player. The Blue Protoss representing Twisted Minds. Down in the series, looking to bounce back, it is Stats. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing Gaimin Gladiators, leading the series 1-0. It is SHIN. And do you see what I see? I see another drone. Hello. Now, if you weren't here for game number 1, for the beginning of game 1, it all started with a proxy hatchery. Now, in game 1, the proxy hatch was scouted, and Stats was able to shut it down ahead of time, which led into the Glaive Adepts, which likewise got shut down for Stats. But here in game number 2, the drone does skirt around the edge of the map, and we do get right on top of the base location, and we're going for the hatch block. Let's go. Now, this is not an all-in, but this is a way to disrupt the opener of Stats and to allow SHIN to expand freely to drone up and delay the expansion of the Protoss. Stats are gonna have to pull the boys. If he wants to expand here, he's gonna have to pull the boys to focus down that hatchery. Otherwise, we need the zealots, and there we go. It's a 2-gate response. Okay, so we're not pulling the boys. We don't pull the workers. We're going into 2 gateways. What does this mean? This means initially zealot production into Adepts. We're gonna have 2 Zealots and 2 Adepts to move out across the map after we deny this expansion. So there's a bit of a give and take going on here, as SHIN goes for the gas and pool, has yet to expand. Okay. So SHIN will have faster access to Lings. Ling production is going to be available. This means that he can make a queen. He can make a queen across the map, potentially to throw down a tumor. It's going to be close. Against 2 Zealots, I don't think we can make the tumor. So it's probably going to be worth canceling instead, as SHIN does expand elsewhere. And the hatchery is not cancelled. Okay, so this means we can make Lings. We can make Lings with this larva to get into the main base and maybe pick off a probe, like 1 or 2 probe kills. Meanwhile, queen has not begun. Yeah, we can't afford a queen here. It would go down. So again, SHIN just delaying the expansion for as long as possible. I'm making overlords out of the larva. Love to see it. Overlords on the way, and we have our tech of choice. Stats going for a Stargate opener. Okay, so 2 gates into 2 Zealots into 2 Adepts with a Stargate with Oracles to support. Just aggression here from Stats. And now what this means is that SHIN back at home, ooh, as he's making 6 Lings. SHIN back at home, he has to make sure he has enough to defend. Again, 2 Adepts and 2 Zealots, they can wreak havoc across the map. We do cancel all those Lings. Oof, we're forced to be cancelled. Stats moving out. Back at home, we have 1 queen, we have a handful of Lings to defend. Natural base is exposed. Unable to drone. Oh, we're going for the probe. Up! And can we get it? We can! 1 more shot, the probe does go down. Ling speed is on the way, and SHIN, he has not been droning. He's banking Lings. We're banking up a massive surge of Lings. And with this, we can shut down the Adepts. At least that's the hope. Adepts, they do not commit to the shade. And we're racing back home. Oh, not quite. Stats still out here on the map. SHIN does miss. Oh, does spot the Adepts. Does spot them. And we go for the surround. And not a bad catch here from SHIN. Takes down 1 Adept and the others. 2 of them do shade away. Oracle does arrive. Stats, he holds his own. Behind the SHIN is droning. Attempting to saturate, taking another base. Still a very tense situation here for both SHIN and Stats, where SHIN doesn't really have the best economy either. Ooh, as we barely get in 1 more spore, 1 drone goes down. Did have a spore trick initially. Wasn't enough, and now we're up to 2 oracles. Behind this, Stats still on 1 base economy. Stats still recovering himself. And Stats, he continues Adept production. Okay. Back up to 4 Adepts. So 2 Oracles, 4 Adepts. Splitting up between the bases. There is a spore in the main, thankfully. Queen does rotate over. Oracles hit the 3rd. And they do get 1 drone kill. 3rd Oracle has arrived. And the longer this goes on, I mean, SHIN's stabilizing. SHIN's slowly stabilizing, but now we're back up to 6 Adepts. Uh-oh. There's a lot of Adepts. So we're shading into the main. Queens under fire. Lings, they go for this round. Don't quite get it. But they do trigger the energy here on these Oracles. Trigger the Pulsar Beam. Energy is wasted. We see Stats behind this going for a Forge and Twilight Council before the 3rd base. Very aggressive from Stats. Delays his 3rd in favor of Tech. So Stats still being very aggressive. Still being in the face of SHIN. And we don't quite commit. Not this time. I'm waiting to see if it's a blink or a charge. That's what I'm curious about. Okay, blink. Blink is on the way. And this could be the beginning of a 3-base all-in. This could be Stats getting up to 3-base saturation, throwing down 8 gateways and just sending it across the map. That is viable here for Stats, considering the game state. SHIN should have thrown down the Roach Warren by now. No Roach Warren. This is a little bit greedy. Looks like SHIN wants to go Ling into Hydra. Otherwise, we should have seen a Baneling Nest or a Roach Warren by now. Lings are going for a counterattack. There's that Baneling Nest, so we are skipping the Roach Warren, which means we're headed into Hydra production. We should be headed into Hydras. Technically, this could also be Muta. It could be Aspire. That is a possibility here for SHIN. As he's dancing with the main army, Oracles are moving out. Moving out across the map. There's a Gateway Explosion, 4 stats. Getting up to 6 gates. The Oracles, they will force a cancel. Very nice catch. We deny the 4th. 4th base is denied. As SHIN still investing quite heavily here into more Lings. Lair just now on the way. Now it's saturating our gases. Lings unable to be too active, but we're going to have a lot of Lings available here with +1 melee. And with all these Lings and with the would-be Banelings, we can shut down the ground army. We could even threaten the 3rd. We have potential. We have potential for damage here. As we have so many Lings. Getting across the map. Army is spotted. SHIN was looking for a 4th. And we can see that we're taking gases. Okay, we're taking gases, we're taking up. Stats is working towards that next step, that next stage. Here come the Lings. Ooh, they get caught out once again. SHIN bleeding off a lot of units. At the same time, Ling run by does try to catch these Stalkers. Nice control out of Stats. He pulls away. Stats has been very efficient. And this is where I have to be concerned for SHIN. As we have to make these things pay for themselves, we have to make them worth their while. We get us around, we shut down the Adepts at least, some of them. They force the pullback. Hydra production has begun. Stasis not quite connecting. Stasis is baited out. SHIN taking the center base, very exposed hatchery. Can he hold on to it? SHIN doesn't have to catch reinforcements. Forcing back the army for a moment, buying time, amassing up more Hydras. And the Hydra count looking solid. Do pick up a queen. Do manage to catch 3 queens even. But we get the 4th. Stats, he holds onto the 4th base, can now take a 5th. Getting up and bracing the Ling Hydra. He's on 3 base saturation. We could do with more drones for the time being. We're still on 3 base. We're still on 3 bases. Still on 66 drones. Likewise, Stats has not expanded. Has not taken a 4th. Not yet. Pick up the Stasis Traps. Ling Siege up on the 4th. Stasis Traps are going to be baited out. So the Hydra started stepping forward. Lings across the map. We're going for the Bane Bust towards a 3rd. Bold move out of SHIN. And he does break through. He busts into the mineral line. He ignores the probes. He's going for the Nexus. And that's going to be a kill on the 3rd base. Massive pickup. And at the same time, we have plenty of Hydras back at home. And finally, the Lings have paid for themselves. I was concerned. I was like, man, we invested so heavily into all these Lings. They've done nothing until now. 7 probes, a Nexus. Stats now on 2 bases. And Stats, he's in trouble. Is in trouble right now. He's hurting economically. Has an army, sure, but he doesn't have enough to break through. All SHIN has to do is hold. All he has to do is defend. Link's still being active. Distracting reinforcements. Again, just leaving the Hydras back at home to defend and using these Links to continue to just harass across the map. Force defensive warp-ins. At a certain point, I would love to see Lings turn around and try to collapse on the army. Speaking of, there we go. Stalkers are being forced away. We can see SHIN getting ready for the blink. Yeah, he's coming in from behind. Catching out the army. Hydra's being rallied over as well. And there's no way out of this. We're trapping the Stalkers. The stutter stepping is real. There's no way to reinforce as we focus out of the prison. We deny the warp in. And Stats, he's cornered. There's no way out of this. He's gonna kite his heart out, but he will lose everything. Force the recall. We'll escape with what little is left, and back at home we at least have disruptors, we have charge lots. But Shin, he's getting up to 4 base saturation, 81 drones. Hive is on the way, Lurker Den as well. Now, Shin won't be able to break his opponents. With 3 disruptors, it's going to be difficult to push into this, but we don't need to break stats. We are just expanding, teching up, working towards Hive, Vipers, Lurkers, Ling Bane. Shin has map control, and he's looking quite comfortable, spreading as much creep as he needs to. Collapsing on the army. Oh, here come the Novas! Not a bad connection. Likewise here as well. Hydras are getting picked off. Expensive losses for Shin. Shin doesn't need to be here. He doesn't need to push in. We can just back off. Stats getting ready for a run by. Shin does recognize that. He pulls back. Shin does retreat. And upon confirming all these disruptors, I feel like we should even prioritize Vipers before the Lurker attack. We'll see. We'll see what we embrace first. As Zealots, oh, they get completely cleaned up. And massive catch on the Zealots. Shin getting ready for a surround. Stats is aware. He pulls back. He rotates around. There it is. Viper production has begun. Vipers are on the way. Solid force fields. Force fields are looking good. Never goes up. No connection. And the force fields are about to run out. Novas, they take down the flanking Hydras. Honestly, not a bad fight out of stats. But it's still not going to be enough. Despite those Novas, we collapse on the main army. 1 disruptor survives. And these Stalkers are so fragile. They're so vulnerable to the Ling Hydra. And Stats was all in. Essentially, he was completely all in. There's no 4th base. So we're going for the Prism. Oh, the disruptor first. And the Prism thereafter. Not a bad catch here from Stats. Collapses on those Hydras. Shin has to pull back. Oh, expensive losses here for Shin. We have 22 more Lings on the way. Vipers, ooh, getting sniped. Good extension by Shin. But remember, there's no 4th. There's no 4th base. There's no economy behind this. We're stuck on 3 bases. Barely on 3 base economy. As we are running out of resources in the natural and in the main. We're oversaturated. We need an expansion. But Stats, he can't afford it. He can't afford a base. If he tried, then he'd just be run over. As Stats is all in. Nice splits here against the Nova. And the Lings, they close the distance. They get on top of the Stalkers. Efficient trades by Shin. I mean, even so, like, we don't even need to be efficient. We have a massive economic lead. Drone's getting caught out, at least. The base is spotted. We can go for the 4th, or sorry, the 5th base even. While Shin is still just amassing his army. Lurker production has begun. We collapse on the Stalkers. Efficient trades out of Stats. Like, he's blinking quite well against the army, doing what he can. The Vipers can't really do too much here, but the Lunkers have arrived. We have the Lunkers. We throw down the Blinding Clouds, which will protect them. And we clean up the Gateway Army. GG gets called, and Shin takes a 2-0 lead. GG. Shin in control once again. Able to get damage done early on with his, with his proxy hatchery. Able to disrupt the opener of his opponent. And Shin was under a lot of pressure, if you remember. Shin was under a lot of pressure. With Stats being hyper aggressive. With his initial adepts. With adepts, with oracles, was keeping Shin pinned back. Eventually Shin broke out and was able to get into his own Ling Bane aggression, able to shut down the 3rd base of his opponent. Remember, that was a kill on the Nexus with the Ling counter attack. It was a bold move to go for that Ling run by, but it did pay off in the end, considering how heavily Shin invested into those Lings. It did pay off in the end, and it forced Stats into an all-in that Shin was more than willing to accept and more than willing to defend against. So GG, well played. SHIN is now 1 game away from advancing on into the closed qualifier. We're making it out of the Korean qualifier. Again, he's so close, and we'll see if he can pull it off. Meanwhile, Stats, I'm hoping for a back and forth. I'm hoping for at least a game. I mean, ideally an ace match. I would love to see that. But Stats has been having a hard time. Has been having a harder time. Now we're getting into game number 3. Here we go. Now, as a reminder, if this series does end a little bit faster, then we will be able to jump into the lower qualifying match. We'll be able to jump into Creator versus Bunny. That is an option. And here we go, spawning in the top left-hand corner. We have our South Korean Protoss player. The pressure is on. No more missteps, no more mistakes. One more loss and he is out of the Esports World Cup. Can he fight back? Representing Twisted Minds, it is Stats. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing Gaiman Gladiators. 1 game away from making it into the closed qualifier. It is SHIN. 1 more game is all he needs. Uno más, papi, uno más. And this time, the hatchery is back at home. For the first time this series, there is no proxy hatch. It's going to be a 15-15, 15 hatchery into a 15 spawning pool. Very safe opener here out of SHIN. Very safe play from our South Korean Zerg player. With this is going to be leading into the expansion on location. It means that Stats with this probe will not force the unnatural natural. Typically with the standard hatchery timing, the probe would get here in time to force it to be placed elsewhere at the 3rd base location instead. But again, Stats just going for a very safe build. The downside of this opener from Stats, sorry, I keep saying Stats. The downside of this opener from SHIN is no gas. The gas is delayed. It is later than normal, which means that Ling's speed is later than normal, which means Ling aggression is later, and it does mean it's delayed, and Stats can more freely expand and take a 3rd. So we should be seeing a much more passive early game, and we should be able to get into the mid game a little more comfortably for both players, both SHIN and Stats. So far, this opener in this game looks like the most standard and the most passive of all games in the series. Which makes sense because we're on Amphion. Like, this map is very defendable, very defendable. Likewise, Stats has the option to expand on the left-hand side. This base is very secure. You have to mine through minerals yourself or knock down rocks to gain access to that location, which can take time. And Stats is going for a Stargate opener. So again, standard opener here out of Stats, going for the Stargate, going for the Oracle, I imagine, into a 3rd. Meanwhile, interesting. Hello, SHIN, already mining through those minerals very quickly, actually. So I spoke about how this 3rd base is very secure and how it can be difficult to be aggressive here and to harass. But SHIN is already working on these minerals, gaining access to this half of the map to make sure that if Stats did expand here, we'd be there to shut it down. And SHIN even takes this 3rd base expansion. Okay, taking the triangular 3rd. SHIN, you have my attention. You do have my attention. Adept has arrived. Does get eyes on the 3rd base. Stats is aware. I'll split up his Adepts. And there we go. Stats rotating over towards the left. And this may force Stats to expand on the right-hand side instead, as he may not want to expand towards his opponent, towards SHIN. Stats at least has control of the mineral line. This mineral line. He has control, so he's going to be able to deny any kind of mining, any faster saturation. That's only a momentary Momentary thinking for stats as we do shade in. Oracle into the main, Adepts towards the natural. We do focus on as many drones as we can. We get 5, 6 drones. Oh my god. Yeah, Shin was not quite ready. 6 drone kills. Again, that's the downside of this opener from Shin. Link speed was delayed. It just now finished. And now we're moving out for a counter attack. And what do we have at home to defend? We have no Adepts on the low ground. The Oracles are busy. And the Links, they will get on top of this Nexus. Can we force a cancel? Adepts, they do morph in. We should be okay. The base is taking a lot of damage, but Links are forced back. Meanwhile, Shin can now saturate his own third. But 6 drone kills earlier, like, that's not insignificant. Sorry, 7 drone kills even. It's not insignificant. Spore not quite ready. Drones are going down once again. Stats getting 3 more workers. Likewise, Oracle's rallying in. So Shin having a hard time. Forced to throw down a Spore. Does go for the cancel. Shin trying to be as efficient as possible. Only making 2 Spores. 1 in the main and 1 in the natural. Lair is now on the way. Roach Warden was thrown down earlier. Again, we're entering the mid-game. Likewise, stats back at home is safe and sound. And the next step is +1 and Blink Stalkers. We spoke earlier about how, based on the openers, it did look like a much more standard game. That's what we're getting. I mean, Stats was being quite aggressive, that's true. He was being very in the face of Shin. But outside of that, we're entering the mid-game. And Shin even taking the center base. Bold move here by Shin, going for the hybrid base. Again, there are 2 hybrid bases on Amphion. We see them on the right and left-hand side. They are taken very rarely. Usually, a Zerg player would expand on the right-hand side and will take the center bases. Instead, would avoid the hybrid base for quite some time. But Shin is being very in the face of Stats here, forcing him to respond. Like, upon seeing this expansion, there's a lot of pressure on Stats to do something about it. A lot of pressure. We'll see if he can. Meanwhile, we have a Spire on the way. Oh my god. I mean, Muta play and Spire tech is seen a little bit more frequently on this map, on Amphion, because of the rocks, because of these mineral patches. I mean, even here, I spoke about how it's difficult to harass the third base because you have to, like, gain access to this location. Stats hasn't done so. Stats has not mined through these minerals or broken down any of these rocks. And because of that, it's going to be that much more difficult to punish the Zerg. To punish the Zerg for rushing into Muta. Really, there's only one attack path, and that's here on the right-hand side. Towards the natural of all places. And the creep here is looking pretty good. Meanwhile, moving out with summoning Roach, going to be threatening the 4th. But we can see that Shin is still droning and is banking resources for the Mutas. The Spire has been unscattered. So far, at least. Oh, Shin does overextend. Lings, they come in to reinforce, collapsing on top of the Stalkers. Blink is done. Lings do get a decent surround. Stalkers are falling, but alas, we will hold. Stats does hold. Shin being forced back. As a reminder, Shin is banking up those Mutas. 8 Mutas on the way. Oh, we shut down the Oracle. Stats was being distracted. And back at home, what do we have to defend? Phoenix production has begun. Oh, we have spotted this. Okay. Stats, he hasn't seen the Spire itself, but he does have the Observer. And it's possible the Mutas, they were spotted. Phoenix production has begun. Fleet Beacon as well on the way. Contamination on the gateway. You didn't see that too often. And we'll see if we can keep up. Now, we have enough Mutas to one-shot drones, but we have a cannon and a shield battery in the main. Likewise, cannon, shield battery in the third. And the natural's a little bit more exposed. True. Mutas are being caught out. No Muta going down yet. We get the Oracle. Whew. Oracle goes down. We can see Shin transitioning out of Mutas into Hydra Lurker. Bold move here by Shin. It's very gas intensive, but I mean, he's got the center base, so it's been quite greedy getting up to full base saturation. taking advantage of the high yield minerals, taking and prioritizing gas as well. He's on 10 gases right now. Jesus. Just heavy gas income here for Shin. He needs it. The Hydras. Oh, sorry. Hydras? The High Templar, what I meant to say. We get one. We get two. Two High Templar go down. We force an Archon as well. Very nicely done. The Mutas do escape. And again, without those storms, Stats has no pushing power. And that means the Stats, he is delayed. He's pinned back. And we're building up that lurker count. There we go. Lurkers are on the way. Shin has successfully just built up to this and has been so greedy. On any other map, Shin would have been punished. But remember, we spoke about how there's only one attack path for the Protoss. Which means we can focus our attention in one location, building up that lurker count. The Muta's buying time, sniping High Templar, still being active. At this point, we can afford to throw these Mutas away. Like, Shin is maxed, and these Mutas, they're hurting more than anything. So we can free up supply, make more lurkers. Shin doesn't want to waste the Mutas, but he's spotted by the Observer. Doesn't want to waste them. He wants to trade as efficiently as possible. Muta towards the main. Shin rotating, does catch the army, going for the High Templar. He gets one, he gets two! He gets two High Templar, he gets three, he gets four. Oh my god, he gets every single High Templar! Ay, ay, ay. Lings, they hit top right. Stats losing every single spellcaster. No more storms. Does warp in two more High Templar, but alas, they're fresh High Templar. No energy whatsoever. Oh, no storms is what I should say. And Stats, he needs time. It's time to build up. Phoenixes, they do harass across the map. Not bad. Getting 5 drone kills. Hydras are trying to keep up. And I wouldn't be opposed to just Shin moving out. He's waiting for his upgrades. He has a +3 on the way. Lurker range just finished. Ooh. Catch the Phoenixes. Here we go. Shin is in position. Ready for the army. Zealots are spotted and we have to respect them. We have to respond. Zealots being forced back. No sky just yet. We have a fleet beacon. We have +1 air attack. There's no advance on. They don't have adaptive talents. Takes a little bit longer to borrow. Mothership has arrived. Stats, he's still holding his own. Oh my god, it's massive spine shots. We catch out the Stalkers. And we're going towards top right. Stats out of position. Takes so long to rotate around. At the same time, Shin, for a moment, they're going for a split push. Committing on the right-hand side. And the Nexus will fall. And from here, we can just back off. We can just back off, rotate back around. Head towards the center base. Shin taking it slow. Doesn't want to bleed off too much. Now, there are a lot of storms available. Bear that in mind. There's a lot of storms here. 4 stats. One lurker gets up behind. Going for the third. Massive spine shots going off. We do activate the cloak. But we have detection. Big storms on the lurkers. Yeah, very nice storms. It looks like we're breaking through the line of lurkers. Shin has to back off. He bleeds out a little bit too much. That was not a fight to take. And now Shin is in trouble. He needs lurkers. As quickly as possible, we need as many lurkers as we can muster. Lurker top right gets shut down. We're investing into Ling Hydra. And there we go. I was like, where are the lurkers? There we go. There's 12 lurkers on the way. Unfortunately, Stats did use all of his storms, so he has no pushing power. I mean, he's moving out now, but did take some time. Yeah, so work through all this creep. And Shin is getting ready. We have a spread of Hydra Lurker. Still a run by on the right-hand side. Still a run by is going to hit bottom right. Hatchery's gonna go down. At the same time, SHIN gonna keep on pushing. Base is denied. Zell's headed towards the third. SHIN is maxed. Does catch the Phoenixes. Not bad. The army is spotted. And do we turn around? Do we turn back around? Who reacts to who? Top right is under fire. So is center left. Zell stay catch the queens, but the main army, yeah, we're going for the base trade. We don't care. Stats does end up recalling. Does recall in time, but the center base is gonna fall. The Stats getting pulled apart, so is SHIN. Bases are going down. Hatchery's gonna fall, so is the Nexus. Lurkers, they're pushing through. They're making their way towards the third base. Lurkers do spread. Oh, and there's not that many carriers. Only 2 carriers. The Hydras, they work their way through the slow zone just barely. It looks like the Hydras will be cleaned up. They take down 1 carrier. And there's no more anti-air. Stats, he's holding. And across the map, he knocks down base after base. It was a bold base trade out of SHIN, but there's nothing left. There's nothing left. Hatches are falling left and right. We didn't have to base trade unless we just had nothing at home. Nothing at home to defend, to protect ourselves. And things going from bad to worse here for SHIN. The Stalkers, they got so much done. Again, if SHIN had more anti-air, then maybe he would have had a chance, but SHIN is falling far behind. And Stats, he saved the northern northern Nexus. He saved the base, that's all that matters. Stats has an economy, SHIN doesn't. SHIN is on 1 base. Stats on 2. 1.5. Soon to be 2. And SHIN is struggling. SHIN is struggling at the moment. Again, it was a bold move to go for the base trade, alas we just didn't have enough at home to defend, to protect our fringe bases. No, a handful of Stalkers in a dream, that's all we needed. That's all Stats wanted. And now Stats, he's just building up a death ball of an army. We've got Storm, we've got Carrier, we've got Mothership, we've got everything we could ever need. Stats is maxed out. And we are looking to make a series out of this. I was concerned it was going to be one-sided. I was concerned it was going to be a 3-0. But it's not. It shouldn't be. Not anymore. Stats has done enough. Here we go. Stats. Now moving out with everything he has. Is just making sure there are no fringe bases. No other expansions. Before going in for the kill. How many Hydras do we have? 3. We have 3 Hydras, 19 Corruptors. Not a bad amount of anti-air. We have +2 air attack. Oh god, that's a lot of Storm. That's at least 3 storms for Stats. Sorry, 6 storms. What I meant to say. I mean, true, there's at least 3. At least 6 storms. As we have 6 High Templar, 2 storm, 3 storms thrown down, and we have more where that came from. Ooh, High Templar are being targeted, but GG gets called. There's just not enough Zerg, and Stats will break through, and we'll put a point on the board. GG. We have a series. We have a series on our hands. GG, well played. Stats fights back, and we have a game 4, at least. And again, if Stats can win this game, we can force an ace match. That's what I hope for, at least. Can we make it all the way to game 5? Let's go. Let us go behind this. Oh, right. I forgot to give a shout out to Chileno. Chileno Singaporean did gift a sub earlier. Did gift a sub to Twitch Guy 225. So thank you so much, Chileno. Likewise, speaking of subs, shout out to Shiva Blaster in the chat for subscribing for 31 months. Thank you so much, Shiva Blaster, for the support. Gracias, papi, gracias. Hope you enjoy the content. Hope you enjoy all the casting, all the StarCraft. Thank you. Thank you for the support for so long. For 31 months. As we're settling into game 4. We are settling in. And game 4 is going to be on Alkyone. Okay. Another larger map, more macro-oriented as well. What I will say is that it's not as defendable as Amphion. Amphion, you can really cut the map in half and get into this 4 or 5A setup a little bit easier. Here on Alkyone, I will say that we're prone to getting the map in half as well, but there's potential for earlier game aggression, and we'll see what we embrace. As spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Alkyone, we have our South Korean Protoss player, the Blue Protoss. Fighting back, putting a point on the board, but can we force the ace match? The pressure is still on. It is stats for Twisted Minds. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing Gaimin Gladiators. Still one game away from making it into the closed qualifier, for bringing down his opponent and qualifying. It is SHIN. Now, as a reminder, this is a qualifier for the qualifier. There are basically regional qualifiers for every single region, and the top players from all these qualifiers make it into a last chance qualifier, where only 2 players make it out. So basically we get the best from Korea, from Asia, from Europe, and from Americas. They all come together, and they duke it out amongst themselves for those 2 final slots for the Esports World Cup. So very cutthroat, very brutal. Very brutal. See who can make it through. Who can qualify. As for now, we are settling in. It is going to be Hatch Gas Pool. Standard opener here out of SHIN. Likewise, stats going for the gate expand as well. Everything looking as it should for the time being. Looking as it should. I see someone asking in the chat, is it a best of 5? Yes, it is a best of 5, and someone's asking, going to see Bunny versus Creator? Potentially. I mentioned before that if this series is fast, if we wrap up with this series before Bunny versus Creator finishes, then we can catch the tail end of Bunny versus Creator, but both qualifying matches are happening at the same time. They are happening and occurring at the same time, as a heads up. So it all depends on how fast or how slow some of these matches are. For now, Stargate opener. Once again, a Stargate opener out of stats. Once again, embracing a more standard style. Getting into Stargate, working towards an Oracle. Meanwhile, SHIN expanding, taking his 3rd, and we're settling in. Now, a big reason as to why we see a lot more late game on Alkyone, a couple of different reasons. One of them is the Zonaga. The Zonaga does give you a heads up. It does give you forewarning as to aggression and pushes. Likewise, we have this ramp. We have a ramp leading into the 3rd. We have, likewise, high ground here outside of the natural location as well, so it can be quite difficult to actually break through these locations. Likewise, the 4th base is very secure. The reason why the 4th is so secure on the right-hand side is because you have to mine through minerals or break down rocks to gain access to this. Very similar to Amphion, in a way. Very similar to Amphion. But on Amphion, it's multiple layers of minerals and stronger rocks as well, so it's that much more difficult on Amphion in that respect. But it can be awkward just pushing towards these fringe bases, and as a result, we've seen a lot of late game. A lot of late game on this map. We'll see if that's going to be the case. See if that continues to be the case here. SHIN and stats, as we were able to embrace a longer game in Game 3. Oracle has arrived. Adepts likewise threatening a shade. So far, so good. SHIN able to keep up. It's happily joining. The Adepts are going to commit to the shade, but we have Leagues in position. For the most part, the Adepts, they do get in. One drone goes down, and ooh, we barely get a 2nd drone as well. The Sport Trick, a little bit too late. And 2 drones for 2 Adepts. That was, I would say, a better trade for SHIN. Ideally, as a Protoss player, you want to trade better than just 1-to-1, as you are trading out gas. That does trigger the Lynx to move out for a counterattack, as Adepts were just thrown away, but we have 2 more Adepts back at home. At the same time, Oracles, they go for the dive. We are putting Queens in position. Queens are ready. Boys are being pulled away. Lynx collapse on the 3rd, but we have another Oracle back at home to defend, and Adepts. So Statsy maintains his third. Meanwhile, we have a Forge and Twilight Council follow-up, working towards +1 and Blink. Meanwhile, we get one drone kill in the main. A nice hold damage there on the Oracle. Shin ready for it. And so far, Shin has done well defending. Likewise, Stats building up and getting into the mid-game. Getting into our upgrade of choice, +1 already on the way. And my eyes are on that Twilight Council. Do we invest into an upgrade or into a tech structure? There it is. We have Blink. We have Blink from the side of Stats. Back across the map. We're headed for the hatchery. Trying to force a cancel on the 4th base. And can we force it? It's going to be close. Up, up. Oh my god. It looks like we do. Just barely. 4th base is canceled. Nice pick off here for Stats. Very nicely done. Does neither 4th. Going for drone kills. Unable to get too many though. And no drone kills. Just a cancelled 4th base. Which is still good. Which is still solid. Meanwhile, Stats, he's taking extra gases, which means we're not going for a 3rd base all-in. Stats, instead of going for a gateway explosion, we're going for some more tech. That is a Temple Archives on the way. We're working towards Archons and Storm. Stats is taking up. Lings, they go for a surround, but they get shut down. And Shin getting punished. Shin yet to expand as well. I wouldn't be opposed to double expanding even. Shin needs a 4th. Meanwhile, not going Ling Hydra, is going Ling Roach. So we're investing harder into Roaches. We have an Infestation Bit on the way. That's going to be for Hive Tech. Going to be for Adrenal. Oracle does confirm, does get eyes on the tech of choice. On potentially the Fast Hive. And again, against Blinkstalkers and against Storm, I'm not too fond of Swarm Host play, for example, so this shouldn't be leading into Swarm Host. Shouldn't be. That shit is building up, finally taking the 4th. Hasn't droned up the hatchery, though. Not yet, at least. Uh-oh. Overlord Speed kicks in, and we're pushing right through the middle. We're going for a big committed push here. We are going all in. I mean, I say all in. We're cutting workers at 73, which is still a decent worker count, but nothing but Lings, Roaches, Ravagers, and Queens are waddling in. And here comes the Sea of Overlords. Spread that creep. Let's go. They're jumping creep all over the place. Queens are coming into play with their transfuse. And Stats, are we ready for this? Do we have Storms? We do. Storms are available. Overcharge is blocked, but it's going to be dialed down. The overcharge does actually help out quite a bit. Finally gets shut down, but bought so much time. The army has arrived. Biles will connect. Boys are being pulled. We'll avoid most of the piles. And it looks like the 3rd base is being broken. Shin catching Stats off guard. I was getting ready for a longer game. So was Stats. Stats investing into his 4th, investing into side defense, but the 3rd base was the target. GG gets called. Shin catching Stats off guard. Catching me off guard, and he will take the series 3-1, qualifying for the closed qualifier. GG. GG, well played. I thought we were going to be settling into a longer game, but nah, papi, nah. After canceling the 4th base, Shin, he just doubled down. After his 4th base was canceled, I should say. Shin, he just doubled down. He just massed up Lings, Roaches, Ravagers, went for Roach speed, and did double down. GG, well played. Congratulations to Shin. My condolences to Stats, as this does mean that Shin qualifies and Stats does not. It means that Stats will be stepping out here and will not be a part of the Esports World Cup. And we're getting ready for our next qualifying match. I mentioned before that if our series was faster, then we could jump into Bunny versus Creator. And that is the case. Bunny versus Creator, they're mid-series. And we will be able to jump into that. I just need a moment to set up the scores, because we're jumping into Game 3. Oh, and I have very little time. Have very little time here. Bam. So, Stats gets knocked down. I'm sorry, my apologies. I did just say that Stats is eliminated from the Esports World Cup. That is not true. Stats has another chance in the 3rd place match. So, I did misspeak. Top 3 make it out of this. Stats gets knocked down, and he's going to be facing the loser of this series. Bunny versus Creator. The winner qualifies. The loser plays versus Stats. Here we go.